I've been online for longer than I'd like to admit, and it's pretty safe to say that at this point, almost nothing surprises me. Like, I'm sure you can relate, because at this point, if it is bad, it will go viral on the internet. So I don't know. It takes a lot, I think, for me to really think to myself, whoa, that was especially bad. But unfortunately, especially bad doesn't even come close to describing what we're going to talk about today. Besides the fact that I am legitimately distraught and surprised that this would happen, another huge reason I want to talk about this is because it really highlights an enormous problem that has been going on for pretty much as long as I've been alive, definitely long before. And unfortunately, it just seems like it's going to keep happening, and I don't really know what to do about it. So if you're not familiar with the story I'm referring to today, a police officer in Seattle named Kevin Dave apparently struck and unfortunately killed a pedestrian. Now, the purpose of this video is not to show and spread the violent video that's passing around, because honestly, I kind of hate when that happens. So I'm not really going to be showing any clips or images from that at all. And I'm also not even really going to share information about the person who was hit. Like, there are very public details that this person was a woman, that she was only 23 years old. But as far as her face and her name being plastered everywhere, I don't really know what her family would be comfortable with. And they've already expressed a desire for privacy. So I'm really going to leave it at that, because that's not really what this video is about. For me, the part where my faith in humanity just started crumbling, if I'm being honest, is the way that everybody in this scenario reacted after this tragedy took place. So I'm going to be playing some audio clips, some body cam footage that was released after the fact, a statement that was given to try to patch everything up, but I promise you, none of this makes anything better. First and foremost, the key piece of evidence that just you have to understand for anything in this video to make sense is that this police officer was wrong. Point blank, period. Yes, accidents happen, especially when automobiles are involved. And yes, sometimes they can get deadly, but this was completely on this Kevin Dave guy. So the first detail you need to know is that he was going 74 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone. Now, the story here is that he was responding to calls of an overdose. And sure, obviously, police officers can drive faster than the speed limit if they're trying to help somebody, but they absolutely cannot do that in a way that's going to endanger other people. So the person in question who was struck was just at the crosswalk. She was literally crossing the part of the street that has been designated for you to safely travel. And this accident still occurred because he could not slow down fast enough because he was driving like a maniac. So right off the bat, this is just massive tragedy. There's no justification or even sense. It's just a totally senseless thing that did not have to happen. And you would think that some sort of disciplinary action or even an investigation into what took place would be the very next thing that follows. But instead, we get this absolute circus of, I can really only describe it as like complete disregard for human life. Like, again, I'm not showing any violence from the video because that's not really the point. But I still would like to warn you that all these reactions I'm about to play for you are just depraved, honestly. So first up, this is just audio taken from immediately after the incident happens. And the person talking is Kevin Dave. I really just want you to hear how nonchalant he is about the fact that he, less than 3 seconds ago, has just mowed someone over.
3 Mary 2. Started supervisor, start fire for a struck pedestrian.
Like, I know that your job is to be calm under pressure if you're a police officer or whatever, but there's calm under pressure, and then there's just sounding like you're just so annoyed. And I'm not, like, that in and of itself is one thing, but listen to how he sighs as he gets out of the car. Like, the man just sounds like his day is ruined. And it's like, I'm sure it is in some way, but oh my gosh. But believe it or not, this is actually not the main guy that I'm referring to when I say I was surprised by their reaction. I know you're thinking like, okay, hold on a second. This person just struck somebody. It was a fatal accident and he's sighing about it like he just stepped in something gross. Are you really about to play something that's grosser than that? Yeah, unfortunately I am. So it's worth noting that this incident happened in January of this year, and there were basically no repercussions at all for anybody involved. So we didn't actually know the extent of what happened. But very recently, which is probably why you're hearing about it in this video, and you might have heard about it in other places, body cam footage has been released from a fellow police officer in Seattle. This man's name is Daniel Otterer, and he is actually the vice president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild. So you would assume that if anybody should be level-headed and focused on doing the right thing in this scenario, it would be some high-ranking police officer guild member. But instead, we get this. So the Seattle Police Department has put this long disclaimer in front of the video, basically explaining like why it's just now coming out because of an investigation and all that stuff. But all you really need to know is that he forgot to turn his body cam off before this footage was recorded. This is basically what got him in trouble, because this footage was obtained and then reported by a fellow concerned police department employee.
Oh, he's good. He says, well, normally we don't give voluntary statements. And I said, hey, you're going to have to decide if you wanted to give a statement or not, but it does not seem like there's a criminal investigation going on.
So right off the bat, he's just like, oh, this is fine. Nobody's really going to investigate the scenario. Which, why are you okay with that? I think that if somebody is struck by a police officer on duty, probably the very first thing you should do is an investigation, just to make sure that everybody is completely aware of the facts of the scenario. But it's like this complete nonchalance that like, oh yeah, no, nobody's investigating this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's going 50. That's not out of control. That's not reckless for a trained driver.
So next we get an excuse like, oh, he wasn't even really driving that fast. And it's like, okay, first of all, he was going 74 miles per hour, not 50. And look, I'm not saying speeding is like normal and great and we should all be doing it. But obviously, if you drive on the road, you do see that people drive above the speed limit. However, there is such a difference between that and driving 3 times above what the sign said. And again, you can argue all day about how he was doing this to get to this response faster or whatever. But like, how does this matter if you're doing this in the dark? Clearly, it's totally unsafe because you hit somebody. So then, in a part that I'm not really gonna play, he starts discussing the details of like what happened physically in this accident, and he's like, I don't know about that. Like, literally, it is a fact that, you know, she was hit, and then obviously there's going to be trajectory and just damage and stuff like that. But he was like, I don't think it was like that bad, is what he's doing in this scenario as well. So now we've got, he wasn't going that fast. I don't think, you know, the damage was really that bad. And so it's like, what is left exactly? Well, I guess we're going to find out.
But she is dead.
Dude. There's no scenario in which an innocent person losing their life and you acknowledging that verbally should be followed up with laughter? I'm so confused. Like, it doesn't matter what was said on the other side of the phone. There's no justification for this. Now, like I said, later, we're going to see that he attempts to justify it. But what is going on here? But trust me. It just gets worse.
No, it's a regular person. Yeah. Yeah, just write a check. Just... Yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Just write a check. She had limited value. We have just witnessed a human being, in what he assumed was privacy, basically reduce the value of someone's life down to a dollar amount and say she wasn't actually even that valuable. She was a person. This is the part where I was saying I was surprised. If you were waiting for it, this is it. I've never heard anybody talk about someone this way, not in any serious sense. Also, when I was talking about how this highlights a lot of issues that I've wanted to discuss, this is a really big one of them, because this $11,000 that he's referring to, that they're just going to write a check, this would be coming from taxpayer dollars. So yes, we're funding this. We're basically funding this. There's no other way to look at how wrong things are with just the police force in this country, where an innocent person was victimized by a police vehicle, and we've got police officers just laughing about it. Like, I'll just write a check, you know, the taxpayers will cover it. That part is implied. Like, where is the sense of responsibility or, I don't know, remorse or anything in the scenario that a normal human being with like a conscience and feelings would? They're losing me. He also misstates her age because, like I said, she was not 26, she was 23. But yeah, like, just to consider this to be a laughing matter at all when someone was hit, it just means so little to you because the organization you're in is just so entrenched in corruptness that you know there's not even going to be repercussions for this. This is crazy. So obviously when this was released to the public, he and the person on the other side of the phone did feel the need to give a statement, and I'm not buying it. So it says, according to KTTH, Otterer, the man in the body cam footage, reported that the person on the other side, Solon, lamented the young woman's death during their initial conversation, Otterer's half of which is recorded on the body camera, and said it was unfortunate her death would turn into lawyers arguing the value of human life. So I guess the story we're going with here is that, like, this wasn't even their real opinions. They were sort of joking about the fact that lawyers are like this, not police officers. I responded with something like, she's 26 years old. What value is there? Who cares? I intended the comment as a mockery of lawyers, Otterer reported, according to KTTH. I laughed at the ridiculousness of how these incidents are litigated and the ridiculousness of how I watched these incidents play out as two parties bargain over a tragedy. And it's like, this is a very well thought out statement, in that it's kind of hard to say, oh no, you're lying. We don't really know what was going on in his head. But I mean, I guess just use your brain. Let me know in the comments, do you buy this statement? Do you really think like this is just a private conversation about like lawyers are actually bad and I don't really think like this? Or do you really think that this is just trying to cover for yourself after the fact? Obviously, I'm here to give my opinion. I certainly believe that regardless of what the context was on the other side of the phone, this is still way too lighthearted of a reaction to an innocent person who has lost their life. So I kind of don't care. It doesn't matter at all. Like, you are one of the worst people I've ever seen on the entire internet. Otterer acknowledged, according to KTTH, that anybody listening to the body camera recording would rightfully believe I was being insensitive to the loss of human life. He reported the comment was not made with malice or a hard heart. Yeah, I get a nice try, I suppose, but I'm really truly not here for it. You have probably heard a lot of criticism of the police in the United States, and it's often reduced down to the slogan, basically, which says all cops are bad. And that gets a lot of pushback from people who feel offended because, I don't know, they know a cop or they are a cop. And I really am tired of people pretending like they don't know what it means when videos like this exist. It's the organization. It's the organization. Organizational corruptness is a plague on America, and it's alive and well in our police force. Do you want us to say that every time instead of all cops are bad? Because obviously ACAB sort of just rolls off the tongue. I really have like so little, I guess, patience in my heart for people who want to argue and be like, well, not all cops, and you know, all lives matter, and just stuff like that, when it's like, just please stop when you know what we mean. We're tired, and I don't know how else I can word this. Why do we have to word everything perfectly so that no one is offended when we criticize the police? It doesn't make sense. Guess what? The cops are bad. Objectively. Look at this. They would not have reacted this way if they did not think that there was, or if they did not know that there was this huge support system that was going to cover for them, and it was going to be funded by us. That is some really messed up, frankly, dystopian stuff that we've got going on here. So how do we even start to reform this? Now, I'm not saying this in a hopeless way, just so we're clear. There actually are ways to reform this, and they're not achieved via a YouTube video or being, you know, temporarily really upset at singular incidents. It takes a lot of work over a very long term by a lot of people. But I'm just bringing it up to say, this frustration is real. I'm tired of seeing this. I hate seeing it, actually. This is why I usually don't talk about things like this. Now, again, I've been very light on details regarding the victim because all I've heard about this person's family is that they want privacy. So no, I'm not going to blast this person's face and their name and all their details all over the internet because that's already been done. And I'm especially not going to blast the video of the incident all over the place, because I never even have talked about this before, but it gets really tiring and just sad seeing people die all the time. Like when these incidents happen and people just play the videos over and over and they're all over Twitter and etc. I do understand you're raising awareness, but there's got to be a better way of doing it. Anyway, I can wrap this all up by saying an investigation was launched, but this didn't happen until August, when again, this event took place in January. So it took over half a year before anybody did anything about this, if you will. And frankly, if that investigation hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't have even known this took place. But yeah, that's just a little check-in from America. Things aren't going very well. I guess we're trying to do better, but we're still dealing with this. Please wish us luck. Promise you the next video will be much more lighthearted. Don't worry. But the thing is, like, we can't just always live in a world of like puppy videos and funny TikTok drama. These things do still happen. We are still people who are affected by the actions of others. And so every now and then, I do think it is unfortunately very important to highlight that. So that's what this was.